There is a specific year in your financial life when something quietly flips. Before it, you are the engine. Your paycheck does all the work. After it, the money does more work than you do. Most people never find out that year exists. They quit before they reach it. Not because the math failed them. Because the math looked for a while like it was failing them. It wasn't. It was loading. There is a moment where the whole thing stops being your effort and starts being a machine that runs on its own. And the strange part is that this year almost never feels special when it arrives. No alarm goes off. Your account doesn't congratulate you. Today I'm going to show you exactly where that year is, and why almost nobody makes it there. And why the moment most people give up is, mathematically, almost the single worst moment they could have picked to quit. The curve looks broken right up until the moment it isn't. Picture a line on a graph. You're saving money every month, and you expect that line to climb like a staircase. One step per year, steady, fair, proportional to the effort you're putting in. That's what saving feels like it should do. You put in, it goes up by roughly the amount you put in. But compound growth doesn't draw a staircase. For years, it draws something that looks like a nearly flat road with a slight tilt. You add money. The line barely lifts. You add more. It barely lifts again. From where you're standing, nothing is happening. The road looks broken, like a promise that isn't being kept. And here is the cruel trick built into that shape. The curve that will eventually make you wealthy spends its entire first decade looking identical to a curve that will never do anything at all. Same slope, same disappointment, same flat, boring line. You cannot tell the winning curve from the losing curve by looking at it early. They are visually the same. The only thing that separates them is what happens later. And later is precisely the part you can't see yet while you're standing in the flat years deciding whether to give up. I'm going to walk you through the actual mechanics of this. Not the motivational version, the arithmetic version. I ran these numbers myself, so we're working with real math, not vibes, and not a poster on a financial advisor's wall. I'll show you the two invisible forces fighting inside your account. I'll show you the exact year one of them overtakes the other. And I'll show you why that specific year is almost impossible to feel from the inside. There's a threshold. It has a location. Let's go find it. Every dollar you invest is actually holding down two jobs at once. The first job is obvious. It sits there and keeps its value. The second job is the one nobody watches. It goes out and earns. It generates a return. And that return turns into more dollars, and those new dollars also go out and earn. Your money starts hiring more of itself. So at any given moment, your account is being pushed upward by two separate forces. The first force is you. It's your monthly contribution, the money you move over from your paycheck by hand. The second force is the account itself, the return it throws off from everything already sitting inside it. In the beginning, force number one is basically everything. You are the entire engine. The account has almost nothing in it, so it earns almost nothing, so your contribution is nearly the whole story. You put in $500, the account goes up by about $500, and that feels right. That feels like a staircase. But every year, the pile inside gets a little bigger. And a bigger pile throws off a bigger return, without you doing anything at all. Slowly, quietly, in the background, force number two starts to grow. It's tiny at first. A few dollars. Then a few dozen. Then a few hundred. It's so small for so long that you never notice it's climbing. Now here is the inflection point, defined precisely because vague inspiration is useless and a definition is not. The inflection point is the year when force number two becomes larger than force number one. It is the year the return your money earns on its own becomes bigger than the money you personally add. It's the year the account contributes more to itself than you do. Before that year, you are carrying the account on your back. Every step of progress is you lifting. After that year, the account starts carrying you. The largest source of your growth is no longer your paycheck. That is the moment saving becomes a wealth machine. Notice what it is not. It is not the moment you get rich. It is not the moment you hit some big satisfying round number. It's earlier than that, and it's quieter than that. It's a specific crossover between two forces. And it arrives long before the account is big enough to change your life. And I want you to really see the two forces moving past each other. because that image is the whole video. Picture two bars, side by side, every year. The left bar is your $6,000 of contributions. And it's the same height every single year because you add the same amount. It never grows. The right bar is the account's own return. And in year one it's practically invisible, a sliver at the bottom. But the right bar grows every year while the left bar stays frozen. Year after year, the sliver climbs. And there is one specific year where the right bar finally stands taller than the left bar you break your back on. That's the crossover. Two bars, one frozen, one climbing, crossing exactly once. But the moment the math flips isn't when you're wealthy. It's earlier than you think. And the only reason you've never heard anyone talk about this year is that it is completely invisible from the inside. Nothing marks it. No notification. Your account does not send you a message that says, "Congratulations, as of this year you are officially outnumbered by your own returns." It just happens silently in a year that from the outside looks exactly like every year before it. So if the inflection point comes earlier than people think, why does almost nobody actually reach it? Here is the uncomfortable answer. The curve is built to be most discouraging at exactly the moment when quitting will cost you the most. Think about what those first years genuinely feel like. You put in money every single month. You are disciplined. You are, by any honest measure, doing everything right. And the return you get for it early on is a rounding error. Your money earns a little, but it's small and slow next to what you're shoveling in. So your brain does the most natural thing in the world. It runs a ratio, quietly asks, what am I actually getting back for all of this effort and sacrifice? And the honest early answer is almost nothing you can point to. This is where a specific psychological mechanism takes the wheel, and it has a name. Economists call it present bias, the tendency to weigh a reward you can have right now far more heavily than a bigger reward you'd wait for. The economist David Laibson built the formal model of this, showing how people systematically undersave. Because a future reward, no matter how enormous, gets mentally discounted down into something that feels almost weightless today. And I want to be clear, your brain is not malfunctioning when it does this. It is doing precisely what brains were shaped to do. For almost all of human history, a certain small reward now genuinely did beat an abstract large reward later. Because later was never guaranteed. The instinct kept your ancestors alive. It's just catastrophically miscalibrated for compound growth. Because compounding is the single worst possible opponent for that instinct. Compounding front-loads all of the boredom and backloads all of the payoff. The years that demand the most patience from you are the exact years that hand you the least to show for it. Now watch what happens when you point real-world data at this instead of just theory. When people leave a job, they have to decide what to do with the retirement account they built there. And researchers get to watch that decision happen at scale. The pattern is brutal. Among people with account balances under $1,000, roughly 80% cash the entire thing out. They take the money and walk. But among people with balances of $250,000 or more, only about 2% do the same. 2%. Sit inside that gap for a second, because it's telling you something the numbers alone don't say out loud. The people who bail are overwhelmingly the ones with small balances. The people who hold on are the ones with large balances. And the lazy reading of that is, well, obviously rich people keep their money, poor people spend it. But flip it around and it becomes something much sharper. The small balance is not the reason people quit. It is the stage of the journey where quitting happens. Because think about who the large balance people actually are. Every single person sitting on $250,000 was, at an earlier point, a person sitting on a small balance who did not cash out. They walked through the exact same flat, discouraging years, they just didn't step off the road. So this isn't a story about the rich and the broke. It's a story about who survives the flat part. That's not when people run out of money. It's when they run out of patience. Right at the point where the math was quietly about to start paying them back. The cash out doesn't happen at the finish line, where it would at least make emotional sense. It happens in the flat part of the road. The part that feels broken. The part that is, in cold reality, just the loading screen for everything that comes after it. And here's the detail that should genuinely bother you, because it shows the system nudging people the wrong way at the worst time. Vanguard found that when the median worker changes jobs, they get about a 10% raise. And their retirement savings rate actually drops by roughly 0.7 of a percentage point. More income, less saving. At the precise moment they finally had more room to feed the curve, the machinery around them quietly reset them backward. And almost nobody noticed it happening in real time. All right, let's stop circling the number and put it flat on the table, with every assumption stated out loud. Here's the scenario. Say you invest $500 a month. That's $6,000 a year going in steadily. And say your money earns 7% a year after inflation, which is roughly the long-run real return of the broad U.S. stock market, based on the historical record with dividends reinvested. I'm using the real inflation-adjusted number on purpose so that every dollar we talk about is in today's purchasing power. Those are the assumptions. $500 a month. 7% real. Everything from here is just arithmetic. Now we let it run and we watch for one thing only, the crossover. The year the account's own return finally beats your $6,000 of contributions. Year 1, your balance earns basically nothing because there's basically nothing in it yet. You are the entire engine. Year 5. The account is now throwing off a couple $1,000s a year in return. Real money, appearing out of nowhere, but still clearly smaller than the $6,000 you're putting in. You're still carrying it. Year 10. The account earns around $5,000 that year entirely on its own. You can feel the machine warming up now. It's close. It's almost matching you, but you're still just barely ahead of it. And then it happens. Year 11. At the start of year 11, your balance sits at around $85,000. And that balance at 7% throws off just over $6,000 in return that year. More than the $6,000 you contributed. That is the crossover. Year 11 is the exact year the account starts contributing more to itself than you do. From that year forward, the single biggest source of your account's growth is no longer your paycheck. It is the account itself. You did not become rich overnight. Your balance at the crossover is under $100,000, comfortable, not life-changing. You didn't cross a wealth line. You crossed a control line. The engine changed hands. Now here is the twist, and this is the part that genuinely reframes the whole idea, so stay with me. That crossover year barely moves no matter how much money you invest. I ran the exact same math at $3,000 a year, at $6,000, at $12,000, and at $24,000 a year. Every single one of them crosses over in year 11. Let that land. The amount you contribute changes how big the pile eventually gets. But it does not change when the machine takes over. A person saving $250 a month and a person saving $2,000 a month reach their inflection point in the same year. The crossover is not about how much you make or how much you save. So what does move it? Exactly one thing: the rate of return. At 5%, the crossover slides out to year 15. At 7%, it's year 11. At 10%, it pulls all the way into year 8. The inflection point is a property of the growth rate, and almost nothing else. And there's one final piece of math hiding underneath all of this that ties the entire idea together. The crossover happens right around the moment your very first invested dollar would have doubled on its own. There's a rule of thumb called the rule of 72. You divide 72 by your return rate, and you get the years to double. At 7%, that's about 10 years to double. And the crossover lands about a year after that. Which means the moment your patience finally gets paid back is almost exactly the moment your earliest dollars finish doubling. That's not a coincidence. It's the same force viewed from two angles. The curve looks broken right up until the moment it isn't. And now you know the moment isn't random. It has an address, and the address is written in the rate of return. Let me make all of this concrete with two people because the arithmetic is identical for both and the outcome could not be more different. Meet Derek and Priya. Same age, same job, same starting salary down to the dollar. And in the same month, both of them decide to start investing $500 a month. Both open the account. Both feel that clean little glow of having finally done the responsible thing. For the first 2 years, Derek and Priya are indistinguishable. Same contribution, same tiny return, same slightly disappointing line. If you covered the names, you could not tell their accounts apart. Then year 3 arrives. And Derek does the thing his brain has been quietly begging him to do since month 1. He logs in. He checks the account. He runs the ratio. He's put in something like $18,000 of his own hard money by now. And the account is worth maybe $20,000. $2,000 of growth. 3 years of discipline for $2,000. And Derek thinks, this is nothing. I locked away 18 grand and got 2 grand for it. I could have used that money. This clearly isn't working. And I need you to see something about Derek. Derek is not stupid. Derek is not weak. Derek is doing precisely what the data predicts a normal person with a small balance does at this stage. He is standing in the flat part of the road. The road looks broken, and so he steps off it. He stops contributing. A year later, when a move and a car repair land in the same month, he cashes the whole thing out to cover them. And notice how reasonable every step of Derek's decision felt from inside his own head. The account really was barely growing. He really could have used that money. The car really did need fixing. At no single point did Derek feel like he was making a mistake. Each choice was small, sensible, and defensible on its own. That's what makes this trap so effective. It doesn't feel like quitting. It feels like being practical. Statistically, Derek is not the exception. Derek is the 80%. Priya does something much harder than what Derek did. Priya does nothing. She keeps the contribution running and she stops opening the app. And here's the thing, it's not that Priya is made of stronger stuff, that she was just born more patient. She made one decision early that took the willpower out of it. She decided up front that she would not judge this curve until year 15. And that, until then, the flat years were simply the price of the ticket, not a review of the movie. Years 4, 5, 6 roll past. Priya's line still looks slow. If she checked, she'd feel the exact pull Derek felt. So she doesn't check. She took her own hands off the wheel of the decision. And here is what Derek never got to see, because he walked off the road one exit before the on-ramp. Around year 11, Priya's account quietly crosses over. The return it earns that year finally passes what she puts in. And she did nothing special that year. She didn't add more. She didn't get lucky. The machine simply took the wheel. By year 20, Priya's account is generating tens of thousands of dollars a year in return, entirely on its own. Several times what she personally contributes. And it is now growing far faster from its own engine than from her paycheck. Derek, meanwhile, restarted from zero somewhere in his mid-30s, because eventually he did start again. Most people do. But that reset means his personal crossover, his year 11, now lands in his 40s instead of his early 30s. Same person, same salary, same instinct. The only real difference is that one of them quit in the flat part and one didn't. Not talent, not income, not intelligence. The timing of patience and nothing else. And here is the cruelest detail in the whole story. Derek quit while he was winning. His curve in year 3 was doing precisely what a healthy, working curve is supposed to do in year 3. It looked broken because it is supposed to look broken in year 3. He read the loading screen as a crash, and he switched off the machine 2 years before it would have started paying him. Now let me be honest about the limits of this, because a number as clean as year 11 deserves some real pushback. First, 7% real is a long-run average, not a promise anyone can make you. Real markets do not hand you 7% every year in a tidy little row. They hand you minus 18% one year and plus 29 the next, in an order nobody can predict. The crossover year I gave you assumes a smooth average, and reality is lumpy and rude. A brutal stretch early can push your personal crossover later than year 11. A strong early run can pull it in sooner. The principle holds, there is a crossover and it's earlier than you'd guess, but the exact timing wobbles with the luck of your sequence. Second, and this one has no exceptions, the entire model assumes you actually leave the money alone. The math has zero defense against withdrawal. If you pull the money out in year 8, there is no year 11. The crossover is not a date stamped on a calendar that arrives whether you show up or not. It is a reward for continuity, and it silently resets to zero every single time you break the chain. Third, and this is the genuinely fair objection, the one I won't wave away, sometimes cashing out is the correct financial move. If you are drowning in credit card debt at 24% interest, then the guaranteed return of killing that debt beats the market. That's just true. And if it's a real emergency, a true no other option moment, then survival comes first and the curve can wait. The point was never that you must never, ever touch this money under any circumstance. The point is to know exactly what you are trading when you do. Because most people who cash out in the flat years are not escaping a fire. They are stepping off a road that merely looked broken, for reasons that felt enormous and urgent and then evaporate within a year. So what do you actually do with all of this? Here's where it turns from an interesting fact into a decision you can make today. First, and this genuinely is the whole game, redefine what the early years even are. They are not evidence. A slow line in year 3 is not information about whether investing works for you. It is the shape of investing working on schedule. So stop grading the curve before it has been given the time to draw itself. If you ever catch yourself running Derek's ratio in your head, I put in this much and I only got that much back, I need you to recognize that exact thought for what it actually is. That is not insight. That is present bias, arriving precisely on time. At the precise moment it does the most damage, dressed up as common sense. Name it out loud when it shows up, because naming it is how you strip it of its authority. Second, put a real number on your own crossover. Take the return you reasonably expect, divide 72 by it, add about a year. And that is your rough inflection point counting from the day you start. Then write it down somewhere you'll see it. Because once you know the flat part ends around year 11, year 3 stops feeling like a failed experiment and starts feeling like month 3 of a 12-month build, which is exactly what it is. The number turns a vague, endless slog into a countdown with a finish line you can actually picture. Third, protect the chain above almost everything else you do with money. Since the crossover resets to 0 every time you cash out, the most valuable habit is simply not breaking the streak. So automate the contribution. Make it happen every month without a decision, without a login, without a moment where your brain gets a vote. Because every manual decision is another chance to quit in a flat year. And when you change jobs, which the data flagged as the single most dangerous moment, move the old account, roll it over, don't cash it. That transition, that raise, that fresh start, is the exact moment the numbers say people break the chain without ever meaning to. So let's go back one last time to that year, the one that quietly flips. It's real. It exists. For most people investing a steady amount at a normal return, it lands somewhere around year 11. Before it, you carry the money up the hill on your own back. After it, the money carries you. And the entire tragedy of this thing is that the year most people quit is almost never year 11. It's year 3. It's year 5. It is the loading screen, mistaken for a dead end, switched off 2 years early. The people who build real wealth this way are not smarter than the people who don't. They are not earning some secret rate of return that you can't get. They did exactly one thing differently. They stayed on the road through the stretch where the road looked broken, long enough to reach the part where it stopped being a road at all and became a machine. That's the whole secret. You do not need more money to reach the crossover. You need more time on the curve. And the only thing standing between you and year 11 is the version of you that desperately wants to quit in year 3. The curve looks broken right up until the moment it isn't. Now you know where the moment is. Don't step off one exit early.